This is CG Ruthless Sports. I will be brutally honest. Ain't nothing but being brutally honest. Coming at you with another video. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome ChrisSheaSF. What's up, man?
Hold on. What's up? Sorry.
What's going on, man?
Breaking up right now. I'm trying to get through.
Okay, man. But tell the audience where they can find you on social media platform.
You can find me at ChrisSheaSF on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, everything, pretty much.
Oh, that's cool, man. So, man, were you so pumped up about training camp?
Yeah, that's usually my favorite content to create and bring attention to the team because it's really where the team, the foundation starts.
Yeah, it does, especially with competition. It brings the best out of the players. But which player caught your attention during training camp?
I mean, everyone's probably going to say it, but for me, Emmanuel Mosley. Like, I've been huge on him ever since 2019, that Super Bowl run. I always thought he deserved more respect, and now it looks like he's starting to deserve it. Get it.
Oh, yeah. One of the most underrated players on our roster. Like, he doesn't get much talked about. Like, this guy is a solid tackler, very physical. He plays bigger than his size. And, I mean, he's finally getting his opportunity to be a starter because he's been a starter, like, the last couple of seasons after 2019. So it's like when he came into the role to cover OBJ again, like on a Monday Night Football, this was kind of like, oh man, we're going to be stuck with this backup guy because we didn't know what to expect. And then when we saw him played against OBJ, the rest was history. We started counting on this guy at some point.
Yep. I mean, we've seen what he did in Green Bay this postseason.
Oh, yeah, dude. He's a tackler. Oh, speaking of Green Bay, huh? You're not too far from Wisconsin. I mean, from Green Bay, huh?
Nah, not at all. I'm like, I would say like an hour and a half. Yeah. I wasn't able to go to the game, though, sadly. But
I mean, it must be really cold in the state of Wisconsin. Huh? Is it like really that cold or no?
In the summer, it's still getting to 90s, but once it hits the winter, like I think during the Green Bay game, it was really sorry about that. It was like 10 degrees where I am, so it's really cold. Yeah.
Hey, shout out to the network, man. This is the NFC West network that I do also. But yeah, huge shout out. Yeah, yo, is that a CG sticker? Yep, that is my logo, brother. But yeah, when I look at the players that actually kind of stood out to me the most, everybody's kind of still not giving this guy enough recognition. I mean, I feel like Lenore has a lot to prove now, but Trey Sermon, you draft a guy in the third round to replace him. That's going to piss him off, right? So he has a great, outstanding training camp. Trey Sermon, to me, I feel like he was very disrespected and he had a lot to prove. And I felt like when they drafted that running back, I felt like this guy was a different person.
Yeah, Coach Shanahan mentioned that he could tell he bulked up a little bit. And he's playing a lot quicker, which makes sense since he's now in his second year. But that drafting a running back definitely lit a flame under him to get going.
Yeah, and I feel like the running back group is pretty much one of our strengths. It's like if we come up with injuries, I'm just hoping there's no more injuries at that position because it doesn't matter who we get at running back. They could just step in and play solid.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I feel like Ty Davis Price, I mean, he's definitely going to make the roster. They drafted him in third round. But I feel like Hasty might be the odd one out that might get cut.
Yeah, that's the thing about Hasty. It's like he's kind of been ruled out last year, and he keeps standing out throughout the preseason. So it's kind of like Hasty's like that one player that you want to get rid of, but when he has an outstanding preseason, it's hard to ignore him to cut him. I mean,
I mean,
he had a last good training camp. The last day of training camp, he had a really good run.
yeah, and he has the most experience out of any of the running backs on the team. So it's probably going to come down between him and Jordan Mason, because I feel like Jeff Wilson's one of those guys where it's like even though everyone's saying he might get cut, I feel like he's one of the guys that the coaches love.
Yeah, Jeff Wilson seems more like a loyalty guy, and he's a good receiving back also. So when you know the system, you're going to stay around. But it wouldn't surprise me if they actually decide to like go another direction and get this Jordan Mason kid a chance. But if he keeps sending out throughout the preseason, this wouldn't shock me. But when you look at the depth chart, I know offensive line kind of seems like a little bit of our concern with the interior position because the center spot is more concerning than the other spots. I mean, because if we can just get the center figured out, I feel like this line's going to be solid.
Yeah, it's really Jake Brendel and Brunskill. I don't know. It's been an interesting battle there because it seems like from what I'm hearing, people don't think any of them are starting capable. So we'll see how that processes through the season.
I'm just hoping there's better communication, there's better consistency at that position. Because if this can gel as a unit, then we should be good. But I like how we're actually kind of starting to give these young players some snaps at that guard spot. I mean, Aaron Banks, I get it. He was kind of redshirt to be the guy to replace Tomlinson, but then you draft this kid in the fourth round, and he kind of like gets the starting role at the right guard's position. So it was no shocker to me. Like I've actually kind of like I don't know, like I made a bold prediction, like even after the draft. I even said, don't be surprised if Spencer Burford becomes the starter on the day opener or something. And some people just were saying Shanahan doesn't usually start these rookies like that. And I said, there's something special about this kid because he's a really quick learner. Like he catches on. And I guess Shanahan keeps praising about how good this kid's catching on. And it's kind of like, some rookie linemen's, even if you get a guy in the fourth round, they're more like developmental projects because they gotta learn a little bit. For him, everybody was concerned about his weight, like he's a little lighter. That's all they were talking about. But when you watch this kid play, he plays a lot bigger.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't remember the name of the other guard slash tackle we drafted, but I've been hearing some bad things that he's like our worst lineman. And so we're gonna need Burford to stay healthy, Banks to stay healthy. So it's gonna be interesting.
Oh, and Nick Zagel, that one dude we drafted in the fifth round.
Yeah.
I've heard some mixed reviews. Like I heard they were very high on this kid and they were waiting for him in the late rounds to get him, but it is what it is with him. But I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about Jason Poe, who's actually getting second team reps at the guard spot. Offensive tackle to me is if we get a good solid backup, we'll be fine. But like we just signed Jordan Mills. Jordan Mills kind of stepped up pretty well.
Jordan Mills has been seeming. I think he's won every one-on-one rep that he's taken so far in training camp. So he can dark horse.
Dark horse, yeah, maybe like a capable backup because you got McGlinchey because McGlinchey can't stay healthy. Williams, he may only just play maybe missed a couple of games here and there, but it's always good to have depth pieces, especially. I'm hearing a lot what's going on with Jalen Moore. I don't know if he's going to miss significant time because that's why we signed Jordan Mills.
Yeah, I mean, as much as people are concerned, I feel like it might start off a little shaky with the O-line, but I feel like once we get mid-season, when everything's gelling, if they can stay healthy, it won't be as bad as people think.
I think we'll be okay as long as we gel. And I know some people feel concerned about Trey's training camp practice and all the other stuff. I feel like that's going to be fixed. I mean, a lot of the great quarterbacks who kind of started off with those training camp or those offseason practice, like people forget about Mahomes. He didn't look great. Everybody was talking about how many damn interceptions he was throwing. Josh Allen didn't have a great rookie year. He was looking like shit. And then until they started adding some talent around Josh Allen's like at least one of the top 3 best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Trey Lance, I'll just say it now. Going into the draft, I did not know who he was at all. I really wanted us to take Justin Fields. I just didn't want Mac Jones. As long as it wasn't Mac Jones, I was fine with the pick. But now that I've learned more about Lance and seen like his backstory and what he stands for, I'm a huge fan of him.
I mean, Trey comes in the Midwest. He comes from a small college. It's hard to know where this guy comes from. I mean, like, if we're talking North Dakota State, I don't think anybody would know who those players were, but the NFL finds these small colleges. Like Josh Allen came from Wyoming, but he came from a small town in Fresno called Fireball, and Fresno State didn't even give him a scholarship to play. And he went to Wyoming to let them know that, hey, you made a mistake. But then you look at a guy like Trey Lance. He came into high school with potentially being one of the top recruits in Minnesota, but a lot of the schools wanted him to play other positions, and he said, nah, I want to play quarterback. And North Dakota State was like the only school that offered him, so that was like, man, that must have been a really slap in the face.
Yeah, I think I seen like he was playing. A lot of the schools want him to play safety, but
and linebacker too.
He chose QB, and hopefully he can become one of the best in the league.
Yeah, and I feel like the more he gets the reps, it will be better in time. I mean, it's got to build that chemistry, which he's getting a lot of good chemistry with Brandon Ayuk. And Brandon Ayuk is kind of coming into his own this offseason. Everybody's talking about how this guy's breaking out. He's becoming one of the best players throughout the offseason, standing out. So it's like, it's not even a question. Like, if we're talking about who's the top one standing out, it's Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I've always I know I might get a little bit of hate for this, but as like a pure wide receiver, I've always thought Ayuk was the best on the team. Like, I love Debo. That's my favorite player in the league. But I just feel like Ayuk's the more talented pure receiver.
As far as like a route runner and a guy with long arms, yeah, he's got the natural ability. Like, I've seen comparisons with him as like another Robert Woods or a Devontae Adams type clone, and that's probably what explains why the Packers are trying to move up to get him, and we moved up to the Viking spot to get him. So that kind of shows how we value this guy.
Yeah, I mean, other than putting him in the doghouse for the first 7-8 weeks, I think Kyle really loves Ayuk and the way he works and how he's now. I'm hearing that he's one of the more vocal leaders on the team, which is good to see going into his ending of his contract in a couple years. So maybe he'll give us a little discount.
Well, this is definitely the year where he definitely has to prove it. Usually in the third year, this is where they actually have to prove and have a contract year, because a lot of players that play in their third year, this is pretty much like, hey, I got to prove it this year.
Yeah, we've seen that with Debo. And, it could go either just like how Jalen Hurd went or Debo went. And it just depends on how hard you work.
I mean, if we're going with Jalen Hurd, the guy never was able to stay healthy, but he had the unique skill set. And it was just, if he can't stay healthy, there's nothing we can do about it. But we found somebody that he got replaced in college with and got replaced in San Francisco also. So we found that guy in the 7th round, but he did play in the same college as him. And then he's the one that took his spot, and he wanted to play wide receiver instead of running back. And I think they said, now we got Jennings over there. And I guess he was looking behind his back, realizing, oh, man, not that guy again. Because, it's kind of like at first, You would have thought, man, we got this kid in the 7th round, but he ends up being exactly what Jalen Hurts was supposed to be: a reliable target on a 3rd down, red zone threat, got the size, got the physicality. This guy's got a dog mentality. This guy comes into the league disrespected because they getting him in the 7th round.
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of Juwan Jennings for a while, going back into his rookie year. He wasn't able to stay healthy. He was out for the whole year. But going into last year, seeing camp, I can't remember correctly, but if I remember, he had an okay camp. It wasn't like where he like stood out. That's why like Sanu was the starter, but towards the middle of the year, you could tell he was getting traction to become that 3rd starter, and now he is.
Yeah, and that's what's so good about him because he's got the 6'3" frame. He's a good possession receiver, good blocker, and he's very physical. But what's even interesting is Ray McLeod. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about this guy. He's coming from being a gadget player to being somebody who could be consistent also. So, and then you got him as a return man. Then a lot of the wide receivers we got is like we got one with speed like Danny Gray. Danny Gray's got that 4.3 speed that just takes it to the next level. Malik Turner is like that one reliable depth chart that you can definitely put in your lineup in case injuries happen. He looks like a solid contributor right there.
Yeah, Malik Turner. I know they just brought in Willie Snead. Haven't heard much about him, but maybe he'll make the team. But Ray McLeod, I just heard huge praise from Shanahan during his presser. He was talking about how they brought him in strictly to be a receiver, but then they watched the film on him being a specialist and a returner, and they really love what they seen there. So he's looking to be the starter.
Well, he's pushing for more snaps. They're going to use him more as a gadget player, maybe use him on certain plays where he can be utilized the most. Like when you watch him play, he's a good return man, but there's like some good ways how you can use him, like in those jet sweeps. That guy's very effective.
Yeah, and they could even use him as like a decoy because like just his pure speed. Like I know he's faster than Jennings, Ayuk probably most likely, but McLeod has been, I don't know, he's been the standout too. Even though he was a little injured to begin training camp, but he really bounced back after his injury.
Yeah, he was a little injured, but then he just shaked it off and did okay. And then you look at the rest of the other receivers. We got Danny Gray, this speedster. He's kind of catching on a little bit too. So it's like this year's wide receiver core feels a lot better than the previous years because when we had some wide receivers, it's just like you only had about 3 guys who stood out, but then later Jennings became his own guy, and that's what mattered. Eventually, he started to develop and become late in the season to be the guy to step in. But this year, I feel like there's like about 4 or 5 damn good receivers that can step into, or even the 6th guy. And that's how I feel because I feel like this year's depth chart it's pretty stacked. Like you look at the cornerback depth, I was concerned because of the injuries, and plus we weren't getting the right depth pieces, and we were just putting our money on Jason Verrett to stay healthy, and that backfired us pretty bad. But this year we're pretty much getting a lot of depth charts and a lot of stuff, so I feel confident about this depth chart this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like going into the offseason, they really wanted to prioritize getting more depth around the team. And I mean, you were talking about like 4 or 5 guys on for receiver. I could see 4. I'm not sold on Danny Gray yet because he's more of like Travis Benjamin, to be honest, like just a speed guy. But he's young, so he can learn and develop into more than just a speed guy. And I know you mentioned you're a fan of Lenore, and I was a fan of Lenore too, and then Ambry came in. But honestly, through like the first 3 weeks, I didn't think Lenore was doing terrible. I mean, you could see he was an undersized guy, but I didn't think he was doing terrible. But they coaches are coaches.
Yeah, Lenore's got talent. He kind of stood out the last few weeks, so the last few days. So he's kind of been stepping into his own. I definitely give a shout out to one of the Bears fans, Jonah Fifney, one of my loyal subscribers. He's a good dude. definitely looking forward to the season opener when we play his Bears. But yeah, Lenore, we got some solid depth. Samuel Womack, the guy we just drafted in the 5th round, he's kind of looking like a guy who can just step in and be a starter opening day. But it's like, man, we find some guys that can play the slot. So what do you think of Samuel Womack?
Uh, when I first seen, I couldn't find a bunch of tape because he's another guy coming from a smaller school. But I've heard, I mean, he's been in and out for first team reps, and he's been just doing his job. He hasn't done too much of making plays on the ball, but he's doing his job. He's covering the guys. He has that speed too. That's what really stuck out to me. His speed. He's faster than what K1 was last year. So I'm hoping if he fine tunes some mechanics, he can be right up there. We want to be up there one day.
Yeah. Man, Moses, I get it. He criticizes this guy, but he's a big Quattrez Knight fan. So we've been hearing a little bit about Quattrez Knight having a little bit too. So a lot of the cornerback depth is pretty damn good. Like you look at a guy we just drafted, Tyreek Castrofield. This guy has potential, but this is where he's actually more sold on Womack because his technique is what. Oh, wait, CG. It's sold on Womack. His technique is what I question, but it gets better with proper coaching. If I'm being honest, like the more we get the proper coaching with guys like Womack has that long arms, like a Sherman arm length, and he even though he's 5'9", but he has those long arms. And usually the guys with long arms, they have something to reach for, right?
Yeah, I mean that could come back to bite you, but no, just like Moses said, the technique is definitely his biggest question, and as our DB coaches have developed Emmanuel Mosley, they could do the same with Womack.
Yeah, I think Moses would be a better DB coach than the one we got right now. I mean, last year we didn't have much picks.
Yeah.
But I feel like this year's secondary, there's a lot of talent. Like even if we were to go with our second team cornerbacks, I feel like there's guys that can step in. Like I know there's a little bit of question mark with Abry Thomas. I know he kind of had a little terrible week and it's not looking good, but we know what he can do late in the season. So he might have long arms but speed, but without the technique, speed won't matter. That's true. You gotta have the technique to play that position. So Moses seems more sold on Quattrez Knight, which he feels like it's a proper guy that's coached the right way. But I don't know, like Quattrez Knight is kind of like that wild card guy that everybody's not even throwing out there, but he seems like an okay player.
Yeah, I haven't seen much on him, but that's probably just because he hasn't been getting the reps with first team and stuff. But I do remember him a little bit, so he could make the roster.
Yeah. Well, what gives him a chance to make the team is his versatility. So if he makes the roster, I'm hoping he makes the team over Dante Johnson at least. I mean, I would take Quattrez Knight over Dante Johnson any day of the week, just so we get something better on special teams or a nickel. They're putting Dante Johnson at nickel. I don't know what's going on. Like, I mean, no offense to Dante, he's been around the league, but there's been times where you can't count on this guy at times. But
at first I wasn't a huge Dante Johnson fan, but then I realized how much he really does for the team, and that really made me as a fan a little bit. He's not gonna get you picks or anything, but it's he's the one guy just like you were talking about versatility. He's the guy you could throw in anywhere. We seen it in the NFC Championship. They threw him at safety when they needed to, and he did all right for being a corner. So.
I mean, that Packers game, yeah, that was a question mark for us. But when we put him out there, he did okay. I'll give him that. I'll give Dante Johnson his credit there. But yeah, at least our defense held out because when Thomas was out, that was concerning. Like, damn, I think this can be it for us because if we can't stop Rodgers on the passing attack with a cornerback like Dante Johnson, it looks like we can be toasted. But no, the weather was a factor, and it just played like an ugly score game.
It was a very ugly game. And if I remember right, they said Ambry was out with like a bone bruise or something, which I don't know. I feel like as he goes throughout the league, he'll learn that he sometimes you got to play through that stuff. But I'm not gonna fault him for it. It's his body. I'm not gonna fault him for it.
Well, at least we like team players. I guess that's where Dante stands for. Like he's that one guy you can just like and count on. And what's up, AK Eagles podcast? What's up, man? What's up, everybody in the building? But yeah, cornerback depth wise, there's guys that can step in because they know the system. So a guy like Dante Johnson may not be a flashy name, but he knows the system right off the bat. So he has a better understanding. Like you get a guy like Darqueze Dennard, which I'm hearing that he's listed as the starter. So at the nickel spot. So that's intriguing because he's got a lot of experience and he's been around the team last year.
Yeah, I think the reason he's getting the opportunity for being in the nickel is because last year I know they signed him like I think it was like for a week before the championship game or something, and he learned the whole playbook and was able to be inserted in, and it's a lot of respect for him to be able to do that.
Yeah, we got him. I think we activated him on the practice squad because he was on our practice squad that year.
Yeah.
And then you look at our safety spots. Okay, Jimmy Ward, we know he solidifies that spot. He's a good shutdown spot, but ball hawks, every now and then he'll get them, but not all the time. But when he's a tackler, he'll make the plays. The one question mark everybody's concerned about is Toli Noah Hufanga. Like, I get that he's a very smart, plays like a savvy veteran, but people question his speed a little bit. I think as long as he has the mental mindset, I think it doesn't matter about how he plays.
Yeah, I feel like our defense is gonna be like so good in every other position that it might like hide the fact that he's back there. Like I'm a huge Tart fan. That's just me. But Hufanga, it was interesting because I know in the beginning of camp he was getting all the first team reps, but then like the second week came around, Tarvarius Moore started getting inserted there at the other safety spot. So I'm interested to see if Moore balls out in the preseason, if he could possibly take that spot.
Tarvarius Moore does give you a lot of speed. Like he runs a 4.3 speed. He's got that 6'2" frame. He's got some ball hawk skills. He just hasn't been displayed or played much of that role. Like if I remember correctly, he did make an interception in that Super Bowl where he got the interception from Mahomes that day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the tip one. But I mean, he's coming off, I think, a torn Achilles or a ruptured Achilles. But so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, David? He would shout out to one of my loyal followers. Definitely saying what's up to you. But he believes Hufanga's got good game speed, which I think game speed makes a huge difference because the game gets slow for you and it gets easier. So a guy like Hufanga, he plays like a savvy veteran, and he's learned from a guy like Troy Polamalu. So when a guy like Polamalu trains you and gives you the mental mindset of the game and how to play at the next level, that's going to give you the huge advantage at times because Hufanga is a humble individual and he's a quick learner. So that's what I like about him. Even though he runs a 4.6, I don't really care because look at Jashawn Golston. Golston ran a 4.6 and he was a big playmaker for us. But who am I to judge? I like to see a guy who can play consistent better.
I mean that's what people say a lot. Like recently about Kyle Hamilton, I know he after his 40-yard dash performance, there were a lot of question marks around him. But I'm still a fan of him. Like he'll be able to once the game slows down for him, I think he'll definitely be able to be a top tier safety.
I mean, speed is a bonus for some perspective, but it doesn't always translate everything. Like you look at a guy like like Deebo Samuel, for example, he looks like he runs like a 4.3 speed, but he doesn't. He runs almost a 4.5, but he makes it look easy, at times. But when you look at a guy like See, Tavarius Moore, to me, he does have the speed. He has the prototypical what you want at safety, but he hasn't been consistent, and his angles are a little bit question marks at times. Like sometimes he kind of misses his assignments and kind of like misses his tackle at times, and that's where people question Tavarius Moore a little bit is his angle and consistency.
I mean, for the most part, though, the only like real action we've seen from him, because I know last year he was hurt, and throughout 2020 he was in and out the lineup, but it was his rookie year, and he, like you said, he got a pick in the Super Bowl. He showed up when it mattered.
That's what we're hoping for. Like he can be one of those role players that steps in and makes that key play, like even in the playoffs or even in that Super Bowl. Doesn't matter. Like as long as we make those key plays. But I like how we are building our team, and special teams does kind of get underappreciated in football because you got all three phases of the game. And what really won us that playoff game against the Packers was special teams.
And that was a huge part, and it's weird. And I know it might seem like I was making it up when I was watching the game with my brother, and I was like, right when it was like fourth down, I was like, I just have a feeling we're gonna make a play here. I just had that feeling, or I was like, I have a feeling we're gonna make a play, but I was definitely like, we need to make a play because I didn't really trust Jimmy to go down and score with, I think it was like 4 minutes left. So
I mean, there was just not enough time left. I think there was like 5 or 6 minutes on the clock, and we had a chance to make a key stop. And then when we got that block punt, that was momentum. The game was tied, and then we made a key stop on Rodgers on a fourth down situation, which was smart by Hufanga. He actually did pretty good on that one coverage play. And that's what made the key factor. And then after we got the ball, Jimmy moved the ball down the field to where it was good enough to be in field goal range, and that's where we won the game. But I think pretty much it was special teams right off the bat. And huge shout out to Brian Cope, good supporter of the channel. And Cardcast, you definitely need to collaborate with this guy. Really good Niners content creator from the East Coast. Like, hey, you definitely guys need to catch up at Talk Niners, man. This guy's a good dude.
I know with the Packers playoff game, a lot of people don't like Tart after the championship game, but he might have saved our season with that end of the half play on Aaron Jones when Aaron Jones got wide open on a little wheel route. He ran all the way from the opposite end of the field to go make the tackle, and that obviously led to Jimmy Ward blocking the field goal.
Yeah, Jaquiski Tart, for whatever reason, he is very underrated, but yeah, you can say one play that kind of hurt us, but I don't really look at Tart like in that way. I mean, it is what it is. He's just a good box safety, a solid cover guy, not your flashy ball hawker, but he does get his moments. I think for the Eagles, they got themselves a solid player. And as far as going forward, this is the only question mark is can Hufanga step in and be the guy? And I think he will. It's just the more he plays, which he plays like a savvy veteran. So I like that about Hufanga. He just has that 10-year veteran mentality. Like he plays like he's been there before.
Yeah, that's definitely our biggest question mark on the defensive side of the ball. That and probably I haven't really seen a lot of people question Drake Jackson, but they shouldn't. I think he has a good body. Like obviously he came into camp in shape, but I know he showed up to OTAs like a little out of shape. But his college forced him to be like 260 to play a certain way, and then the draft it was like a week later OTAs were, so he didn't have the time to cut down the 25 pounds that the 49ers wanted him to cut down.
I think they wanted him to add some weight because he's going to play the edge rush. Because when he was playing in college, they put him at a place to where he played linebacker, some hybrid roles. They made him drop like 20 pounds of weight. And, he's got some athletic traits. This guy runs a 4.5 from UFC. If not for the poor coaching at UFC, this kid would have been a top 10 pick. Like the fact that he slid in the 61 pick and we didn't have to trade up a spot to get this kid, that is a steal. Like I know some of our fan base is like getting fed up with the edge rush picks, but dude, you got to keep adding depth pieces. You can never run out of getting that to the quarterback. You need enough people to chase the quarterback. It's a quarterback driven lead and you need to get somebody to stop them. So I like this pick because he's got the upsides to maybe next year be that one complement to Nick Bosa. He's going to be a nice rotation piece. He kind of gives you that Artie Key similarity, but more of an Aldon Smith type potential because he's got those athletic traits, those twitch moves. This guy has the skill to succeed at the next level.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were talking about his natural bend going into rushing the passer. And I seen Samson Ebukam. I don't know if it was just a bad day or something, but I know he was like, oh, if I had a bend like that, I could do this and that, this and that. But it's like sometimes you just gotta let the rookie be the rookie. Like saying that, it's somewhat like, I don't know, it's like envious a little bit because it's like, all right, why instead of worrying about like how the rookie plays, worry about your craft and focus on making a play every time you're out on the field.
I think Abby Gunn will be fine. I think he's just trying to like compliment himself with the rookie. So I think everybody's getting a lot of praise with him, like especially Nick Bosa. He said he couldn't have been like that.
So, how are you feeling about Trey Lance?
Well, I feel like it's going to be like a learning experience for him. I think what makes it even good about it is if for whatever reason he doesn't have to do too much. All he has to do is just play a role as being a game manager. If he has his opportunities to throw more of the passes, I think that will be some games where he could be the guy. But I feel like with the better supporting cast like we had with Jimmy Garoppolo, it's pretty much going to be similar, but more better. I feel like he's going to do something that Jimmy couldn't do, move out of the pocket a little bit more, take some time to find that open receiver or throw in that tight window to where the defender can't get it and the receiver catches it right on that tight spiral, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say because it's like I just seen like I think they were joking about it on Twitter, but they were talking about like fantasy football. They're like all these people taking Ayuk early just to have the 49ers pass the ball 15 times a game. But it's like I get it, that's the fantasy crowd, but like Trey Lance shouldn't have to pass the ball 25 times a game to win. But I feel that he's capable. Like if it comes down to him throwing the ball, when obviously he needs to get his reps, but once he gets those reps, I'm trusting him to be able to make plays and win the game.
Yeah, I feel like there's not pressure with him. Like I feel like he's already in a better situation. All he has to do is just not mess it up like the way Jimmy's been doing it. But if he does it the right way, plays the role right, throws the ball where it needs to be, let the running game take care of itself. Don't try to be the hero, but whenever your name is called and you need to step in and throw the ball more, then that's where you definitely need to step up because there's going to be a team that stops that running game. And this is where it tests Trey Lance if he can carry us. And that's what I want to see. I mean, I know we're going to have some games where our running game's going to look so damn good that Trey's probably going to only throw like maybe 15 to 20 passes a game at that point. But there's going to be some times where maybe he might throw 30 or more passes out of those shootout games because the defense is slowing down that running game. So that's where it tests Trey Lance. Hey, what's up, Corey?
Yeah, we have a couple of those games this year. Like some already on the schedule. I can look at like the Chargers with the defensive coordinator. You might have to have a shootout with them, which that's going to be a fun game to watch. I feel like Herbert versus Lance. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think Chargers, you get in a shootout. Kansas City, you're going to get a shootout because of Mahomes. The one that everybody kind of questions a little bit, like you got Denver, you might want to win a shootout with. The Raiders, it's kind of like if you play your best game, you might have your dominant game, but we'll see. Maybe a shootout too. That's just a 50-50 with them because I don't know which team we're getting. But when you look at the rest of the teams, Miami Dolphins, all we got to do is just run the ball, establish the way we've been running the ball, and we'll be able to out scheme McDaniel because we know him pretty well. Let's see. You look at the rest of the matchups, like The Washington football, like the Commanders, it's like they're still a rebuilding team. We just established our time of possession, established the running game, or established some ways to help Trey Lance elevate the passing game a little bit, and it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for us to have a successful season, we just gotta win the games that we're supposed to win. Like if we steal like say two from the AFC West and win the games we're supposed to win, that's like 11, 12 wins right there alone. So hopefully Lance just plays. I mean, we don't want him to play like Jimmy, but be like a game manager when he has to, like Jimmy was.
Yeah, at least play the smart part where it doesn't need to be the hero type of thing, you know. But there's gonna be one of those games where it's gonna have to come down to it. So maybe you might want to. Maybe it might come down to maybe the Rams too, because the Rams they're building a defense too, and you're gonna have to compete with Stafford and them, and you have to compete in the shootout. But I know we've had their numbers, but that can be a team that we definitely might need a win in a shootout with too.
I mean, who knows with Stafford? I know he has reports about his elbow having arthritis or whatever. So he might. I mean, he's probably one of those QBs where it's like they don't need a full week of practice anyways to be able to come in and play just how he is since he's been in the league for so long. But I'm interested to see how that affects him on like a weekly basis.
Yeah, that's going to be the question mark. And then you look at Tom Brady. I think out of all the teams, I think this one could be the tough schedule because we haven't played Tampa Bay with Brady, and Brady's always, I don't know. I mean, Brady hasn't slowed down one bit.
No, he hasn't slowed down, but his team's been. I think Ryan Jensen just went down for the year early in training camp. Now today, their backup center went down holding like a lower leg injury too, so they might be down to a third string center, and that's not gonna be good. No matter who you have at QB.
But knowing how Tom Brady is, he'll probably just make a call to get somebody. That's just how Tom Brady does business. He does it like the LeBron James business way. Like he's going to get somebody.
Yeah, they'll find someone to fill the role. I mean, they just got Julio. They'll probably
Yeah.
get Gronk by the end of the season too.
Ooh, that would be interesting. When is the first game you will be? I don't know. I probably won't be calling play by plays as much because of my work schedule. But yeah. And everybody's excited about the preseason. I'm just excited to see what Trey can do and what this entire defense and this offense can do. You know, that's what we're looking forward to. But as far as all of that, man, what are you looking forward to in this preseason game?
For week one.
Yeah.
Uh, honestly, I'm looking at. I know people hate on him, but I'm looking to see how Ambry Thomas does in game. Like he might be one of those players where it's like they elevate their game in the actual game instead of practice. So I'm really looking at the backup secondary. I know we were talking about them earlier, but it's really just a bunch of young guys out there. So it's really gonna show who can show up and play.
Yeah. That's somebody that definitely is because he hasn't looked quite well in training camp the last few days. So that's somebody we definitely want to see if he can step it up. The one player that I'm really excited to see is Trey Sermon. I feel like I want to see if this translates into the game because all this workout during this off season and all this looking good in practice, I want to see if Trey Sermon can turn those Jets up to another level. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's also going to be interesting to see, seeing the battle between Hasty, Sermon, Wilson, all of them. I mean, we know for sure Mitchell is going to be on the team. That's set in stone. But to see who our running back two is going to be, that's also going to be an interesting battle. And it's going to take, I think, all 3 weeks to decide. It's not just going to be a 1 week decision.
It's going to take a while, but it looks like Jeff Wilson's got the second team lead right now. But Trey Sermon could make his case, and then maybe Ty Davis Price. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Uh, Probably. I want to see Kinlaw if he does play. I know they were talking about he might not play, but if he does play, I want to see how he could do and see if he could get through maybe a quarter of play.
Yeah, that's going to be something interesting to watch, see how he does and see how he reacts to that knee issue. But yeah, so that's what I'm pumped up about. But definitely appreciate you being on the show, bro. It's definitely been a blast. Maybe down the road we can definitely catch up. But tell everybody where they can find you again, and then we can end it on the high note, man.
All right, you can find me at ChrisSheaSF on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. I do have a website called allthingsniners.com, but if you don't have to go check that out, but that's just something I do on the side. I do write articles here and there. But I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, for sure. For everybody else that follows my channel, go check out Chris Shea SF. Good up and coming Niners content creator. If any of you guys are a Niners content creator, go definitely collaborate with this guy. He's a very smart guy, and you play football, right?
Yeah, I just before the show, I just got home from practice like 10 minutes before the show, and I was it's interesting because I know people were talking about Trey Lance. He broke his finger as a QB last year, and how he talked about how that affected him. I broke my finger like a month ago, and I played QB, so I know the struggles of that.
Oh, he's asking who's your favorite player.
My favorite player. I mean, on the Niners, it's Debo Samuel. Like I've loved him since 2019, since when we drafted him. But like outside of the Niners, I would probably say Josh Allen, just because he's a small school kid and he can do it all.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. Yeah, I like Josh Allen. You can't go wrong with it. But I mean, it is what it is, bro. But hey, definitely looking forward to seeing you around, bro. Hopefully, you grow your channel once again, bro. You've been doing pretty good, but I definitely appreciate you. I'm going to end this on a high note. For everybody else, thank you guys for attending, and go check out my guy, Chris Shea SF. So I'll definitely share it through the community tab so you guys can sub them and go check them out. But see you guys later.
Appreciate it.
Peace.